Unfortunately, right now though, it's her first year, so it's like dipping, and she's like, "Oh, mine's gone, minus mine." I'm like, "Mum, just keep buying the dip."
I got my mum in and literally like just couldn't. It could not have been like the worst fucking period.
February 12th.
Oh. It was like it was.
You know the exact date.
3, 2, 1. All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 25. We are halfway to episode 50.
Let's go, boys. Quarter of a century.
There you go.
And today we are going to start talking about money. So
let's go,
I'll hand it over to
boys.
Dylan to
topic,
introduce this
boys.
episode.
Here we are. So we've been holding off for such a long time. We've got 24 episodes in, all talking about character development. Why is that important? Because you need to have that character before you go into understanding money. We see the main problem is everybody does the opposite. Everybody wants money now and they want it quick. And so they want to skip all of that character development stuff. But if you don't have that, you're never ever going to be able to find out actually how to get your hands on money and actually use it properly. The other thing is like the main point of today with today's podcast, we're going to be talking about, why is money important? Because if we actually think about it, it's really demonized in society. Everybody there attacking billionaires and stuff like that. Whoever has more success than you, people try to find like a little story or some sort of conspiracy theory to attack these people and bring them down. Like you can look at any guy in the limelight, go on their Twitter page, go into the comments, and then what do you find?
Didn't Bill Gates create Corona apparently? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Like all these guys, Elon Musk as well. There's all conspiracy theories against
I really
all
liked
these people.
your Instagram story yesterday about Patrick Bet David, where he was talking about how social media has given a bigger platform for the complainers, and the doers are not getting the limelight that they deserve
Because they're actually doing.
because they're
not
actually
talking.
doing the work.
Yeah. Not many people doing are actually talking.
Yeah.
It's all waste of time.
That was a ripper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
It's like it's very obvious, but until someone like kind of points it out and says it, it's like, well, if the people, I guess the doers, if they have such good views and proper views, like why are they not pushing their thing out there?
Yeah.
Because they're out there actually doing some shit, boys.
Yeah, and I guess that's why it took us 24 episodes to get to the money part, because to become a doer, you need to have character.
Yeah.
And that's like why we were talking about character being so important before making money, because everyone I come across, especially like, how we're doing consulting, helping people get invested, most of these people that we help try to get invested, they already own like crypto. It's like you can already tell the mindset of most of these people. They just want to get rich fast. They just want to get rich tomorrow. And it all stems back to like the basics, which is these people probably hate their lives. Like they want to improve their lifestyle and they're just not finding enjoyment in what they do. How they work and like how they behave and how they act and what they're doing.
We always say like our way to success is never like a get rich quick thing. It's a get rich slow and guaranteed thing. But the thing is, ours is kind of like based on what we know. It's the fastest way to get there.
Yeah.
So it's like that catch-22 where everybody's trying to get rich quicker, but it's like that always ends in failure. If you're thinking so short term like that. Another thing in terms of like money as well is if you just think about money itself, that is an invention or like a discovery. It's a very, very beautiful thing. Imagine we had no money and we were still back on like the gold standard when we were using like gold coins and stuff like that. Or before there was gold even, like, and we're still bartering and trading physical goods. How hard would life be? How are you going to work out what's worth what? And then, that we always have that problem of, hey, if you want to have my sheep for like, I did 1 hour of work. Well, what do? Cut its toe off and give it to you? Like.
Which was the issue with gold as well, right?
Yeah.
Like people couldn't really transport that much amount of gold.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like money is just communication of value, isn't it?
That's exactly just the transference.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to be able to, it's like a nice metric for how much value you're giving to each other.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And that's why I guess, the top 1%, they have the most money is because they create the most value.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason they get paid for all this shit. There's a reason.
Yeah.
That's because they create literally one of what makes them the richest is because they have businesses, and those business employ millions and millions of people. So the reason you have a job is thanks to these people.
And they're selling a proper product or service. And everyone's like, oh, these guys are taking money from us. They don't have a gun to your head to tell you to, give me your money.
Yeah.
We're volunteering.
Yeah.
And you want it. I always had that argument.
Yeah.
Sure, there's some seriously good marketing like abilities from these companies that sure persuade you in certain ways and influence you to do these things. But at the end of the day, no, you want the shit.
There's no like mobster going around saying you have to work here, or else we're going to get your family.
Yeah. Did I drive past Macca's? I smell the beautiful Macca smell, and everyone knows it. They're not forcing me to go in there, but I'm telling you what, they're making a real good case when I drive
Mate,
past
that's
it.
me with Kentucky.
Yeah.
I think as well, like on the big macro level, like just how capitalism works and how investing works in general is usually the wealthy, they have a surplus of money. They can't actually spend it. So what they want to do with that, obviously they want to grow their net worth so they can help more people and all of this stuff, expand their companies. It's no longer a money thing. It's no longer about themselves. And if you think like that, like trust me, like once you hit like a certain figure of net worth, you're not going to be motivated by the money. You're probably going to find yourself in a hole, lacking motivation. You're going to have to find something else to motivate you because it really doesn't work like that. Unless these people are crazy. And there are some crazy people that, just need to be powerful and all this stuff. But I think it's actually quite rare. It's very rare to find a human that is just like that. So the way the financial markets work is these guys that have all this money, they want to grow it and they want to help their family expand and all this stuff, have better lives because they might be good, but they need to have their initial family, their kids, they need to have their lives good. Then you need to start thinking about your extended family and that, and other people overseas, like what we talk about, how we want to donate $1 billion. You've got to think about all that stuff. And the best way to do it is by investing that capital into some sort of like company that one day will grow even bigger. And a lot of the time you think about like venture capitalism, investing in small companies, a lot of the time it's investing in something that the rich already have to bring it to the mass market, to everybody, so everybody can enjoy that thing. And if capitalism keeps on working, and if you do the game theory and just keep on seeing where it's going, it can potentially get to a stage where everybody actually has everything. Because one day, there might be robots that do every single job. It's all sorted. Whatever you need done, it's all automated. So eventually you will have the exact same life as the rich. You won't actually have to work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a hard kind of... It's a hard question. We were talking about it last night, that like what happens when everyone has all the money in the world and gets everything they want all the time. We don't have an answer for that exact question, but it's an interesting thought experiment to do. To like say you had all your money, you had all the money to pay for all the expenses you ever had, everything was covered. What would you then do tomorrow? Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing that people could do.
Yeah, I think it really, like, imagine if we just had $10 billion tomorrow, any one of us, like what would we do? And then everyone else had $10 billion. What would we do? I think it just turns into just enjoy yourself. Yeah. Just have fun. Talk with your family, have nice food with your family, hang out together, go rock climbing, go scuba diving, travel to some new place, check it out there, go to the mountains, check out the snow. You just can do whatever you want. Play some video games if you want now. Do whatever you want.
Almost hunter and gatherers, or nomads, I should say. Like we're just traveling around and exploring the world again.
Yeah, do whatever's fun for you.
Yeah, that's a funny one. Do you guys ever, thinking back to when you were younger, do you have a specific, I guess, like story when you first demonized money, or have you always looked at money this way?
For me, my story was like, I was just sick of school. Like I felt like I put in so much hard work into school to always be the guy that got A's in every single subject. And then by the time I had to move out, like I think the first time I moved out was like in year 11. And I just couldn't be, year 12. I moved out in year 12. And it's like the last year. But life had gotten to me so much. I'm like, screw it. I can't be bothered anymore. And then I started to like hate the whole system, hate the schooling system, hate money. I don't need money anyway. That was like my mindset. And then that led on to my previous story of how I went to Bali, and that shocked me because I saw someone die because they needed $1,000. And they needed to go to hospital because of that. So that made me reevaluate. But another story that we haven't heard yet for me is like with my grandma. I've got this a half grandma, and she's half. She's full Chinese, and yeah, so she's like what my step grandma or something. I don't even know. My family's complicated.
She's Nana.
Yeah.
To us, she's Nana. To Dylan, she's Nana. She's Nana.
Right. But yeah, so she's Chinese, and she's a typical Chinese that just works her ass off and sacrifices as much as possible. And she's worked so extremely hard, her whole entire life. And she's always worked roughly like 50 hours as a nurse, and she only retired just like a couple years ago at, around the age of 70. So she has been working so hard for so long, and all she has done, she's always sacrificed herself. She would never, like, barely ever go to like restaurants and all of this stuff. She thinks everything is, you need to save money, you need to save, you need to save, you need to save. She has no abundance mentality. And then the thing that she did is she wants to have her legacy be that she put her kids through a decent school. Like, those, they're not like private, but they're like $5,000 a year, those type of schools. So she sacrificed to get her kids through that. And then, her kids were able to go to university and stuff like that. But that's her thing. That was her metric for success. And she feels successful for that. But I just wish like I could teleport back in time and say, hey, like, instead of saving all of these dollars for uni, or spending $5,000 each for, my uncle and auntie, it's like 10 grand a year. And she was mainly doing it. Her husband wasn't working that much as well. So she grinded her ass off. And it really makes me sad because that's 70 years of her life. She could have had, with money, you can buy back time. You can actually buy fun. You can actually buy happiness. Mm-hmm. If she had more money, she would actually be more happy.
Yeah.
What's she like now? Does she regret anything, or
she doesn't know any better? I don't want to mention it to her as well. I can't tell her like,
break her heart.
I can't tell her, oh, you could just invest in the S&P 500. You would have $20 million to your name, and you could have retired 20 years earlier. Because it will serve no purpose in her life. It will just hurt her. It'll make her have too many regrets.
Where does that come from? Sorry, where did she get that mentality from? Like she's from China, you said, right?
Yeah.
So when did she come over here? Do you know, roughly?
Oh, probably, I don't know, probably 50 years ago or something.
So she came over here with nothing.
Yeah.
Like not much to her name. Yeah. So she's starting from zero.
Yeah. I think, well, with Chinese people specifically, it's because they went through all that starvation and through the communism and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So they had nothing. But they just didn't have the right education. And that's what motivates me is with Hardcore Headstart, with the podcast and everything we do, we can educate people to not go down the same path. Because everybody tells you the same. She lived the typical status quo life. You work really hard. If you do more than 48 hours, good on you. That's even better. If you spend less money, that's even better. And have a high value towards education, the standard education system. So she followed the everything to a T, and it didn't result in proper success.
And do you reckon she got like used to that survivor mentality as well?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Survivor or sacrificial.
Like that became her identity, and she's like, yeah, I need to keep that up.
Well, she doesn't have the means to change anyway. Like, you have to sacrifice because now you're forced to, because you have no money. You're in a position of weakness and a position of fear because you don't have a high net worth.
That's like when you come from a country like that and what's been happening to you for so long, that becomes what you're saying, like your identity. You have to sacrifice to survive all the time. And if you don't like kind of evolve past that little point, then it, as you're saying, it becomes the only thing possible. It's like you have to continue to do that or else you're screwed.
Yeah.
And that reality becomes more of a reality the older you get.
Yeah.
Like it's harder and harder to break that habit and B, like to get yourself out of that position.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing as well, like, because she doesn't have access to internet and she didn't have a high education and come from a wealthy family, no one told her there's a different way.
Mm,
So you can't see there's a different way.
sure.
So there is no, there is no other way. And that's like with everybody right now. We're like this massive, big hurdle that just comes in front of you, or, we're coming out and we're saying, hey, you can live this other crazy life. Everything you imagined, everything that you've ever dreamed of, it can be a reality. If you just follow these steps, you can achieve absolutely anything in life. And something that I think about is, if I had the same work ethic as my grandma, how much more successful would I be? If she was given the same opportunity we were given, she would destroy us, man.
Mm,
These people, you don't understand how hard they work. You don't understand. Like, people, it sounds normal because the numbers just go through our head. 50 hours a week minimum for 50 years. We only did it for 3 years.
And that's considered hardcore nowadays.
It's
Back
nothing.
then it was standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was grateful in her eyes because she saw her family do more than that for less money.
I think it is definitely like something for us, younger people to actually think about, because older generations, they went through a lot of stuff, man. Like, we have such a big advantage of just the sheer amount of resources that we have at our disposal. Like, for your grandma, she was definitely in an environment of instability. So maybe when she came here, she was like, I just want to be secure. I don't want any more instability.
Yeah.
So maybe she's even more risk averse because of that.
Yeah.
She may have heard some investing and all that stuff. She may have heard of it, but to her, it's a big risk.
Yeah.
She's got a family.
Yeah.
That she
It's a
wants.
risk that she can't even consider.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that interesting how, like, back 50 years ago, even 40, 30 years ago, it maybe it wasn't even a possibility to hear the things that we now
It wasn't
know
at all.
so easily.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost not it's definitely not an excuse anymore to not know about investing or the stock market. Like, you can accidentally come across it on the internet. Like, in every, I'd say, people who was in at the same age as your grandma was at that time is on the internet.
Well, imagine this as well, like this scenario, to truly understand it. How many people have we seen that are wanting to get into investing, and then they find some mentor or some friend that's going to help them, and that person doesn't know shit all about investing, and they think, oh, my guy that I know, he's so smart, and then they find out he doesn't know anything, and then they find a new guy, and then they realize he doesn't know anything too. Then they find another guy, he doesn't know anything too. They find this guy, he's a bloody scammer. This guy's a scammer. This guy's a scammer. This guy's a scammer. You went through 10 people, and now you got trust issues because you don't know who to trust. Like, we're in such a good position because we genuinely want the right thing for everybody. It's actually hard to come across genuine people that really want to do the right thing. Like, everybody on Instagram, if you find 100 people telling you can have all this finance and success and all this shit, a high percentage of them, you can't trust them. And their knowledge isn't good either. Maybe they have good intention, but the way they try and teach and all of that, they're teaching many, many bad habits.
It's kind of like a nice way to create context of how important our responsibility is to get our message out there, isn't it? It's like we have to be the ones who are louder and prouder and bigger and better than everyone, because we have to save as many of these people getting the bad advice as possible, right? It's like, you've been scammed with courses, with other people, etc., etc. Can't happen to the amount of people it is.
Yeah, because I like, imagine 50 years ago. I always contemplate, like, we're living the greatest period in history because of the internet right now. We're so lucky, so fortunate. If it was 50 years ago, I actually don't know the answer. How would you actually invest? Because we all say, oh, we'll just invest with Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. How do you find out about Berkshire? And then how do you learn to have conviction in Warren Buffett, to manage all your net worth? Like, what, do you watch his annual meetings? I don't even know how you watched them 50 years ago. Was he recording them back then too? And where was he posting it? Like,
Radio maybe.
Posted it.
yeah, was it a radio
It
thing?
would have been
I
like
have no idea.
VHS tapes, wouldn't it?
It'd be so hard. Like
Well,
I
there was
always
a
think
TV then.
if we were taken back like 50, 60 years, would we have met, like all of us? Most likely not.
There's no way, man.
Like how we wouldn't even have had.
We'd
Hardcore
probably be
Headstart.
friends.
Yeah, we'll probably be like distant cousins.
Still not convinced you're not cousins.
But yeah, I think when you realize and you can see luck, you realize, fuck, man, how fortunate you actually are. Because luck is around us everywhere. And everybody is complaining, oh, the world's against me. Dude, we live in the greatest time in history where we are the luckiest people in general. We just need to find a way to use that luck, for ourselves to get better.
Imagine like 50, 60 years we're back in time, right? And we're just trying to learn about investing. So we're like, oh, okay, investing. America is probably the biggest economy. Let me look into America. Wall Street. Let me look into Wall Street, right? Guess what? Warren Buffett's not in Wall Street. He's in fucking Nebraska. How the fuck do you find out about Warren Buffett?
I've got no idea how it would work. When did the S&P 500 get invented?
It's I saw a thing, it was like 100 years ago or something from...
But like as the actual ETF, I'm pretty sure ETFs, like when was the S&P 500
How would you
invented by
actually
Vanguard?
place a trade on the S&P 500?
Yeah, you gotta call this
Would
guy
you have
up,
to like
call
send
all
like a
people up.
telegram or something?
You got a telegram. Probably, actually.
Yeah, you would probably have to because good luck getting a phone.
Yeah. Call some
You
random
gotta
dude
go.
up.
Yeah, you gotta call up the broker. The broker's gonna be starting to try and sell you some shit. So it says, I don't know, based on this, what I can see, a brief history of exchange traded funds (ETFs). They were popularized in 1993.
Whoa, that's
What
really
do
So
you
you'd have
do,
to buy
man?
like individual companies.
Yeah, dude. And then the guy, I'm pretty sure the story.
it
Don't
your
quote
age?
me on this. Yeah, it's my age. The head of Vanguard, I think I can't remember what his name is. Founder of
Dutch guy.
Vanguard. Let me just Google it real quick. Oh, John Bogle. He had to sell to the world why the S&P 500 is a good investment, and go back and check those
Seriously?
YouTube videos.
wow.
He's literally pitching to everybody what an index is and why it's a good investment.
John Bow was the
God
OG.
Dude, and he's a phenomenal guy.
So the ETF became popularized in 1993, right? So would you have to like go through a hedge fund or something?
I don't think it was a concept yet. Like,
Really?
I don't think so.
Wasn't
Pretty
Warren
sure.
Buffett talking about just investing in America?
I'm not sure exactly when
Way
he started
before?
saying that. I don't know. To be
See,
honest.
We
how would you
like-
have known
Yeah.
to invest
We
in
look
the
at
S&P?
90. No, what? How many? What are you? Is that 28 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not long, man.
It's not long, but it's like,
So imagine you're 50 years old. What do you do?
gee, I don't know.
So back then, you would probably definitely have to open up like a retail store.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar,
Wait,
boys.
As an Australian, are you even? How did you invest in foreign countries?
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
hard.
it would be hard, and
It
you
would
would
be
have
even
had
harder.
$50,000 minimums to begin your account. There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of barriers to entry.
Shit.
Which is why, like, we live in the greatest time. There is literally no barriers to entry now.
Yeah.
Dude, we
As soon
can.
as you're 18, you can just start investing. Like, it's so easy.
Remember, one of the main selling points of why we moved to crypto first was because I think at the time, most accounts, if you wanted to open up an actual trading account, it's $25,000 minimums.
There's no CFDs.
Some of them had $10,000 accounts for students. That was the way you could bypass it. But everyone, I don't know why the minimums were so big
No
Is this for
fractional.
stocks?
for stocks.
Yeah. I
No
remember
fractional buying at all.
Yeah.
that. Dude, Charles Schwab now, 25,000 US minimum. Still.
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 is it-
Yes.
Oh, Charlie boy.
Yeah.
Schwabi's lost it, mate. What the hell's going on there? Like, you see all these new platforms coming out, like, what is it, Raise and all those other things. They're providing, like, pretty much no fee trading, and you just, like, you skim off cents on whatever you spend and shit like that. How are these big boys even competing
Charles
anymore?
Schwab is $0 fees
Yeah,
for trading, but the entry is like 25,000 US.
yeah. They run off that custodial model, don't they?
Yeah.
instead of chess. Yeah, interesting.
But I remember not too long ago, it was like to be able to invest in like certain areas, you need to have like at least $1 million in assets
Oh, yeah.
for you to just be considered to be able to invest.
That's how lucky we
Could
are.
you still invest through the banks back then?
I don't know, man. I don't know how it works. All I know is it's very difficult.
Oh, and then also back then, like the interest rate from the banks would have been a bit higher.
Oh, you mean savings account at the banks? Or
Oh no, could you invest through banks?
Like ComSec, like
Yeah,
investments and stuff.
I don't know.
into foreign countries.
But yeah, the interest rates were 15% back then.
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, for some sort of time, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. So, like, leading back, I guess, on like the story of when we first started demonizing money personally,
Mm.
is, I mean, yours is beautiful, so mine's not going to be as emotional, but I remember looking kind of, being that young, like 15, 16-year-old, like looking at life and be like, kind of, what do I actually want? And you come down to those materialistic things, is like, I want a nice life, I want the finer things, I want all the good shit, you know? I want as much good shit as possible. And then I just lived a normal life when I was with the parents and stuff like that. So it was very like, as mediocre as it gets. It was as good as it can be with the situation that we were in. And the main difference between the life I was living and the life that I wanted is only money.
How old were you when you realized that?
Well, I think it was in conversation with Dylan around the time we were starting at Nando's. So it's like, you can put, until someone says it, maybe just for me then, until someone says it, you can't really put your finger on. You can see the differences, as in like the type of people, and money's a real obvious one. But the more important thing is like, how do you actually create money and then keep money? I was like, you can identify that money may be the problem, and I'm sure I had at that age because it's very obvious. It was like, how do you actually go about creating those things? And that's what Dylan started helping me with. It's like, here's that tool, like investing and stuff like that. So when you kind of get started on that journey, you start, when you're in like a mediocre society, or I don't know if the correct way to phrase it, but when you're just living like the normal suburban lifestyle, everyone in that lifestyle has a certain view of the really like rich people, and they don't want you to chase that because then you'll become a bad person. So the idea of making more money means you're then going to become a bad person. So they don't talk about money, they don't teach you about money, they don't ever have conversations like that. So it's hard to identify how to actually make money, even though you know money is the difference. So I remember being like a really big point when I was like around 15, 16, and then kind of wanting someone, and I was very lucky to have Dylan, who was just almost like, felt like the day after was like, here's the answer. It was like, the answer is investing and stuff like that. But I remember that being a real prominent like thought of mine when I was like 15, 16. It's like, all right, like I want to get money because that's clearly the way to do all the things that I want to do. But then I don't think I'm a bad human being. So is there a way to make money without becoming a shit human?
Yeah.
That's a dangerous paradigm to grow up with. It's like you're programming, like even for everyone in middle class, is just because our parents, they don't have a good relationship with money because no one taught them.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And then like they don't teach us because they don't know themselves.
Exactly.
And it's just like, that's our programming since, growing up. And that's dangerous because why does it have to be one way? Why does it have to be like only rich people are evil? You can there's a lot more evil people out there than just rich people.
And it always stems from like that class thinks that the way they got rich was to rip everyone off, and not create value, but take. And so it's just not the reality for the majority of cases. It's like people create business and they actually give people things, or they help people. It's a transference of things. It's never just take. And for the very rare people that do just take, they end up getting caught out, and they get screwed and they go back to zero.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's the same people as like the lotto. It's the same kind of similar thing as the lotto. People who win money in an incorrect way will end up losing it all.
Yeah, because they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah. Well, it's not like one of the big phrases I remember hearing very early was like, it's not hard to make money, it's very hard to keep it. You know, so you work out very quickly, just like in basic investing, buying the S&P. That is a very simple way to be able to create millions of dollars of wealth for yourself eventually. Right? And that's fine. And there's other ways of creating heaps of money. But if you don't have the character there to be able to do those things, you're going to make money in ways that will end up on you just blowing up and losing everything. So I thought it was an interesting dynamic, because like, how do you become the type of person who's wealthy and not become a shit human? Although the reality is that to get heaps of money, you can't get there and stay there without becoming a good person.
Did you also realize that the way people perceive you, let's say you're wealthy now, and the way people perceive you as being a shit human being without even knowing you, do you think it's you changing your environment to make you think differently as well about money?
Ask the question again, sorry.
Because the Aussie culture is the tall poppy syndrome, right? So if you put your neck out there, people are going to try to tear you down because they don't want you to get ahead, right? Do you feel like because you're in that environment, removing yourself out of that environment and surrounding yourself, you know, with people like Dylan and us who think differently, that changed your perspective on money?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you don't have people like for example, I was telling everyone last night, I was like, when you first start this journey, a big part of it is knowledge and reading books and stuff like that. And you get like called every name under the sun for trying to do better. So they like this culture I grew up in doesn't want you to do better because they're scared they can't keep up with you. So they don't want to see anyone else doing better.
The thing I find so funny about these guys though is they're saying all money's all bad and all this shit, but what are their actions doing? Trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're spending money everywhere, you know,
all the time, and they're buying like lotto tickets, which is a poor man's tax.
It's weird that they don't frown upon getting like the lottery, winning with the lottery.
Oh, they do.
Do they?
Like if someone else wins,
they're
pissed.
Okay.
Bro, that was my fucking win. That was my jackpot. Bro, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Funny, man.
I don't know, maybe I didn't explain that the best way, so I apologize. But
I think a good exercise for everybody, what you're talking about is, we literally wrote down, because there's a big argument against, do you follow your passion or do you follow the money? And we say like, oh, if you're able to follow your passion, follow it, you know. But a lot of the time, you kind of need to make money first, because a lot of your passions, a lot of your dreams in life, the one thing holding you back, like you're saying, is bloody money. Like, it's almost on every single thing. Like, not all of them, but money is always there, and money helps you do that passion. And especially, like, how can you follow your passion? For most people, how can you follow your passion when you have no money? Because you're acting out of that fear mindset. How can you think big? How can you think in terms of joy? I'm going to follow my passion. I'm going to do something I love and all of that, when you're worried about the bills day to day. You're worried about surviving. You don't know where your next meal is going to come from. How can you?
it's actually very similar to like a drug addict or something like that. A drug addict will like let go of their own responsibilities for drugs every single time. Like a passion is a similar thing. If you do your passion all the time and then let go of all your responsibilities because you just want to continue to do that, then what's the difference? Yeah. Just because you like it may not be, say, specifically bad for your health because it's not drugs. It's on a similar line where you're getting opportunity costed to the gills, like what you can actually do.
Yeah. And I like to think back to like that example of like my grandma in China. Imagine she's just like to her parents, "Oh, I just want to follow my passion now," and they'll be like, "Dude, get your ass back in the rice fields.
Yeah, honestly,
like do some bloody work."
Yeah, passion didn't exist. Like you honestly just had to survive back there.
Dude, my dad works physical labor, always has. Trying to for him to try and understand what I do now, it's taken him years. Like, what do you do? Mate, he takes the absolute piss. It's kind of funny. It's sad as well, but he takes the absolute piss. You're like, mate, all you do is press buttons. You don't actually do shit.
So
My
he values like physical hard work.
Yeah, like the old Australian guys.
You should like full on strain your arm, your finger. Oh shit!
I was at a family event and they're like, "Fuck, your hands are real smooth, mate." It's going hard. And I'm like, "Yeah, she looks good, mate."
Poor guy, man.
Yeah.
Because
Funny-
he grew up with that. Like that's his
Yeah.
version of idea of hard work.
Yeah, he grew up like on the farms and stuff like
Yeah.
that, like driving tractors when he was like under 10.
Yeah.
So they,
And then now he's like what, in his 50s, 40s, 50s.
mid 50s.
It'd be hard to like change your mindset now.
Yeah, sure. Well, like back to even Dylan's point, like it didn't really kind of like it did exist in his era, but he wasn't the kind of person who was ever going to be able to kind of create that. So everything he knew how value was created with his hands. He created everything with his hands. He's very similar to that kind of like almost caveman type, whereas like values bringing in food with your hands. It's building things with your hands. It's doing those types of things. That's what's valuable. And this whole other kind of industrial age world doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. But
It's a different generation.
yeah, I grew up at farms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like when you're out in the sticks, you don't know.
I think with your dad, correct me if I'm wrong, but he and a lot of people have found a way to be passionate about their work. To love, what they do.
Yeah.
Because I think the saying is roughly along the lines of the more we do of something, the better we get. Because the better we get, then eventually we'll start to enjoy it because we're actually good at that thing. So I think you can become passionate about random things. Like we were always passionate about, like we said before, passionate about scrubbing dishes and endos. She was a ripper job. To a lot of people that haven't worked there, you could be thinking, far out, that sounds like the worst job in the world, scrubbing the dishes. Everybody makes fun of it. But you learn to become passionate about things. But it's just getting over that hurdle, like, and switching that mindset, like, all right, dishes is going to suck. But no, let's be a freak at making the dishes. And let's see how good I can get at making the dishes. And it turns like to a mastery thing. And then you just love doing it.
Yeah. Well, my dad, he works in a golf course, so I joked with him that all he does is watch grass grow. But when he like talks about it, like in the chemicals used, he lights up. He's been doing it for 35, 40 years. I couldn't think of anything worse, but he loves it.
You could say it is similar to investing. So he's got the grass and he's watch it grow. It takes a long time. Needs a lot of patience.
Literally the same
Sure.
analogy.
Yeah.
We use
And he has
You
his
gotta plant your seeds, son.
his chemicals. They're like indicators and moving averages. You set up in your trading view.
These chemicals, as far the way he explains it, these chemicals are 100x leverage.
Really, the steroids are.
Dude, they just send that shit to fucking Mars, bro. Dude, it's fucking intense. With the good shit. But like he goes and grows grass for all these other friends and all these people and shit like that. It's just that's his thing. He loves doing it. And I think it's exactly Daniel Alley. Like he's now achieved like mastery or is achieving mastery in that specific thing. So
That's good.
anyway,
That's
yeah.
ripper, man.
Let's go.
Well, what about you boys? Like Dylan and I have just shared those stories. What are the
Mate.
Some-
So for me, I guess the first instance I really noticed money was, well, first of all, my upbringing was, I grew up in a very spiritual household. So like I guess you can call paradigm programming was more towards like convention, more towards spirituality, less towards materialism, all that kind of stuff. And like growing up, I was just around that so much that money didn't even come into my head. I didn't even think about money because my parents would literally just pay for everything. My parents had decent jobs. Again, very good savers. Didn't spend money on anything because they came to Australia in 1997 and they bought like a house and a land 2 years later. So they're just paying all that down. So growing up, I didn't really have much. Right. So I thought that was normal until I went to like India when I was in grade 3. When I went there for about a year. My parents sent me there for primary school for a year just to live with my auntie and uncle to feel what it was like to live away from home. And till this day, I keep telling them that was the best thing they could have ever done to me because when I was there, I literally saw like the worst. like poverty, just like people struggling, like people my age that were struggling at that time. So I'm like, how do you help? Because you want to help these people, right? You just feel like really, really bad and you want to help these people. And I'm just like, they're just begging. So I'm thinking, can we give them food? Can we give them something? And they were just like, they were begging for money. And I didn't have money at the time. And my parents had money at the time, but I was like, just give them money, right? We have money, just give them money. But they didn't give them money. So I'm like, fuck, I felt really bad. And that really stuck with me throughout the whole time. So just having that actual experience of not being able to help someone with money really stuck with me. And that's really when I learned about money. And I guess like growing up, I kind of demonized it because of that whole spiritualism thing that my parents were. My parents grew up with that and then put it onto us where like, materialism isn't the whole purpose of this world. This world is a fake world. It's a simulation, pretty much, right? So you got to like focus on your inner self. So like that programming was there the whole time. So
But didn't your parents want you to go to like university and all of that stuff? What's that all about then?
yeah, so
Isn't that
I
to
know
get money?
that's
So
the
confused.
weird thing because they focus so much on the spiritualism, but then they also want you to like just get a really good education, go to like a really nice university, and then just the traditional lifestyle, which is like get a uni degree, get a job, get a house, get married, have kids, and then just work your whole life.
Doesn't sound very
Where
spiritual.
does
I
that-
know.
Where does that fit into the
I know.
spirituality side of
It doesn't,
things?
and that's what confused me
Yeah.
for the biggest time. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And because like I demonized money because I didn't have money. And like my parents would not even, they didn't even make me work. They didn't give me, well, they gave me money, but like they didn't give me money. I didn't have like an allowance or anything. So it was like really strange. I was very confused growing up. And then in grade 9, they sent me to India again for boarding school. And there they had like, I was in school with really wealthy kids. And like, I wanted that lifestyle. So that's when it slowly started to shift of like what I wanted. So I wanted to help people, but I also wanted to like have a better lifestyle for myself.
Yeah.
And around that time was when like the 2008 global financial crisis happened. That's when like my dad lost his job. And like I could really, really feel the effect of not having money. It's like that made me want to get money even more. So like my mindset started shifting a little bit there.
Did your dad's mindset shift as well when he lost his job?
I don't know, man. My dad's like a closed book. It's really hard to read my dad.
Because being an Indian parent, like you're always about work hard in your job and stick to your job.
Yeah, honestly, I think because he lost his job, it made him more risk averse. So he again put that mindset into me. Whereas like every single day I was being told, just be normal, just be normal, just be normal. Don't do anything risky. So whenever like I always felt like I didn't want to do the traditional stuff because to me it was boring. Honestly, I felt so bored at school. I felt so bored at uni, but I just felt like I had no other option. I thought my only way of making money was to get a job. And like I told you boys, I said it on the podcast too, like my big thinking of me making a lot of money was an $80,000 engineering job. That was my big thing. And if I didn't think differently, if I just thought normally, that's where I would have ended up.
When you were in grade 3 and you went to India for the first time, you went with your parents, right? And
Yes.
you asked them to give whoever these kids were money.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something they would, like if they were very spiritual, isn't that something they would 100% do? Like were they trying to teach you a lesson or something?
That's what I thought. And the kid wasn't even asking for a lot of money. It was literally, so he was asking for like 10, 20 rupees, which is fuck all, like less than $1. But the thing there is if you give them money, then they'll keep asking for more.
Sure.
So that's what my parents wanted to avoid.
There's just too many people as well. You can't help them all. One family.
There's also a bit of guilt because when you're walking in India, like on the street, you see so many people begging, And if you give one person money, then you're like, oh, I have to give that person money too. I have to give that person money. It's just so much like you feel so much guilt.
Yeah.
You guys remember going on that? Not to tear away from your story, just a little tangent quickly. You remember going on the GoFundMe page? I was like, we wanted to help as many people because we were raising money for a friend of ours in Bali. And you're going clicking through them all, and there's so many people with great stories who need help. And we literally do not have enough money to be able to help them at this stage. And hopefully in the future we do. But like, it's,
We had that dilemma. Do we help our mate who's struggling really, really bad, can't even afford food? All these people that have got even worse shit going on.
yeah, literally worse shit. Like, where do you...
You go and GoFundMe. It's crazy, man.
It's fucking...
It'll open up your eyes, for sure.
Yeah.
If you don't get a little tear in your eye reading some of those
Yeah.
stories, you're...
Dude, grade 3 really shook me up, man. Like I literally saw like kids without limbs. Kids without limbs fucking limping on the street, man. Fucking begging for money. You know what? Some kids they're hustlers, man. They would be like without a limb. And as cars would stop at like a red light, they'd have like a basket of like snacks and shit. They would literally run up car to car. Hey, you want some snacks? You want some snacks? And then what they will do is like, let's say they make a sale, whatever money they have at the end of the day, they actually have like younger siblings. These are kids, grade 3. They probably have like a 2-year-old sibling just like in the slums, just waiting. So they have to like buy supplies to go home, or else the both of them are starving. Like that's the reality, man. That's what I saw in India. And I was like, shit, I have it good.
Pretty good motivator to, I guess, make money.
Yeah, and I was thinking like the reason why I demonized money was I was thinking, why is no one helping these people?
Sure.
Like my parents would always say, "Oh, India is such a big economy," how your parents talk so big about
The
where
place
they're from. Yeah, they're like, okay, if it's such a great country, why is no one helping these people? If we have so much money in the country, why is no one helping these people? Why are the roads like this? Why is there cows on the street?
It makes no sense, yeah.
It's a very good question.
So like all these questions went into my head. I'm like, man, people with money, they are pieces of shit.
Yeah, they don't care, right?
Yeah.
Man, that's intense.
Mm.
It's funny how knowledge is the separator between like
Honestly, man.
reality and not.
Mm.
Yeah.
You always have it, like when you're younger than your parents, you always have it in your mind that your parents have it all figured out.
Yeah.
But like, I think like the thing there is like they got conflicting ideas in their own mind: spirituality, making money, success, university, and all that stuff. Where it's very rare to find someone that actually has thought about their life, where do they actually want to go, and made an actual plan to get there, and looked at like, do they have contradicting ideas going on in their mind, and gone through all of those weeds and sorted them out. No one really does that stuff. It's very uncommon to hear of.
I think I'd love to hear more about the spirituality and kind of and stuff like that, because I think one day maybe as a people we'll realize that those are actually things that matters. But currently we live in a world that we need money to survive, and without any money it's going to reduce our happiness and our ability to do anything in this world. So we do need to get that money first, and then I'm sure you will, because you've got roots in that. Definitely go down the spiritual path and really
I'm slowly
find
starting
out all those things.
to see what they mean with their spirituality, just from life experience. I'm slowly seeing it. But what my parents would say growing up is, you need to work, but you shouldn't indulge in money.
That's fair enough, I guess.
You shouldn't indulge in it. So like, I guess maybe they didn't explain it properly.
Sure.
But having a lot of money can be a good thing, because now you have an abundance. Now you can actually give it to people that need it. They didn't tell me like that. They didn't have an abundance mindset. It was, again, like just like your grandma, it was all like conservative mode. Just survive. And it makes sense. They came from a completely different country, couldn't really speak the language, and made something for themselves. So they wanted to conserve that. But they didn't realize they gave me a huge head start. So now it's kind of like an obligation. You have to think big, or else you just wasted all their life, right?
I think
Right?
Yeah, the comparison of these three so easily to see is like the character was needed first. Character, knowledge that was needed first, and if those differences were there in, say, the way we were taught from our parents, or if, say, your grandma was the knowledge available and stuff like that, the outcome would have been probably different. So it's interesting.
Mm.
What about you, G?
So I grew up like hearing like money is the root of all evil a lot. Cause yeah, pretty much the same as you guys. I look at rich people, or people around me will look at rich people and be like, "Oh man, they're evil. They're not doing anything with their money." So my story is kind of like, so my parents moved here in like the early 90s, and they moved here with 3 kids. So from the get-go, once they moved here, they were like they were hustling, they were working really hard. Dad was working, mom was working, and then in the late 90s, my dad got really sick. He had a brain tumor, and then yeah, so for like he was almost about to die. And then mom was actually working really hard while dad was at hospital. Mom was like going crazy because she had to, look after 3 kids. And then luckily dad was all right. He came out of hospital. He was still able to work. So, and I think a year or 2 later I was born. So that's the 4th kid mom and dad has to look after. So luckily dad was able to work for a while. And then around 2008,
some recovery sex there, just.
And then around 2008, dad had the brain thing again, so he had a tumor in his brain. And then from that he had to he was pretty young. He was late 50s, I think, and he had to stop working completely. So dad couldn't work at all. He had to retire. He was forced into retirement. Mum had to work and look after 4 kids pretty much. So, it was similar to Dylan's grandma in the sense that mum, as long as I could remember, mum was just going to work all the time. She's still working, and she's in her early 60s. And
Damn, man.
if it wasn't for me doing what I'm doing right now, I reckon her mindset will still be I have to work till my mid 70s. I have to.
Yeah.
So yeah, so dad got sick. He had to retire. So I was just seeing my mum fucking work super hard, and help us all us kids out. Eventually my siblings all got jobs, and they were able to make a life for themselves, but I never really saw them helping my parents out too much.
Damn.
And being the youngest, seeing that, I'm just like, bro, I want to help them out. I really want to help them out.
They deserve
yeah, they deserve it. And I was just seeing that, I don't know, you growing up and you're seeing that and you feel like shit. And even me, I was a bit of a dick as well. In my early mid-teens, I was starting to go out, and I'd borrow money from my parents as well. And it was just stupid. It's in the sense that, because it's just my mum working, and she's working to survive.
When you were going out, did you feel guilty when you asked for money?
No, not at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, looking back, I did. I do now.
Yeah.
So once I started learning a lot about money, I completely stopped asking.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was just oh, you're my parents. You're supposed to look after me. I just had that stupid. Yeah, I had that stupid mindset.
Gee, some people haven't worked that out, and they're in their mid 30s and early 40s.
Facts.
Bro.
Yeah. You're 23, bro.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
Yeah. So my siblings had their own lives, and they still talk to mom and everything, but I could tell that they weren't financially helping mom out that much. And obviously because they're working, they're not really well off or anything. They're still working. They got their own families to look after. So, it's not a big thing that they could do. They can't really, help mom and dad retire or anything.
And how old are you again?
I'm 23 now.
And then how old's the eldest in the family? Your siblings?
Late 30s actually. He's 38.
38. So I bet you, man, you must have thought about this many times. You wish you could have been the eldest. So then your mum would have been younger.
Yeah.
And then you could have helped her.
Yeah.
More. If you think about my grandma, say working, she's like the similar stage as your mum. She might say she finish around 70s, 75-ish, whatever it happens to be. Then you can see your mum needs to retire around 75. But luckily, because of this knowledge and all of that, you're able to save 5 years or maybe 10 years, roughly, of her life. Like, how valuable is that 10 years to you?
Oh, so valuable, man. I was thinking exactly that when you were saying your story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it wasn't for what I knew now, my mum would be working into her 70s. And that's a crazy thought. Like, if it wasn't for the knowledge I had now, I would have been just gone on work and then not really caring about my parents financially, their financial wealth.
What's your mum's view on money? How does she see it now that you're doing
So
this?
mum, because it was just her working, like dad did want to do investments and he wanted to do real estate, but because it was just mum working, like they couldn't take on that risk.
Yeah.
So mum was very like scared. Even when I told her about I was going to do investing, she was very scared. She's like, no, it's really risky. So she didn't even have the like mind state to think about investments.
Yeah, because she has a lot on her plate already. Yeah,
exactly. All she can think of is just stay in your job and just work.
Yeah, just be normal.
Yeah, just be normal.
4 kids. The love of her life is also.
Yeah.
You know, he's struggling. Man.
Yeah.
It's stories like that, G. Like,
but even them, like,
how the hell has she done that?
Even them, to a certain extent, like, mum was super lucky that she was able to work and have a job, because if she didn't have that kind of money, I'm sure there's couples out there that have no money at all, and then one of their partners fall ill and they have kids. Like, what do they do then? What do they do? Because, you know, they've got bills to cover.
Yeah, honestly, like, money can buy back time. It can also buy health.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. Money can literally save your life.
Yeah, you can extend your life.
Yeah.
You can extend it.
Yeah.
Right. The idea of being able to save like actual years of your parents' life is pretty, pumps you up a little bit, doesn't it? Gets you emotional as well. Because like in your case, you know, there's people a little bit older now. Imagine you got him like the eldest son. Imagine you got him at like 50.
Yeah. But yeah, I was super lucky to have the education that I do now. Like, even my siblings, I didn't, like they grew up, you know, obviously my parents would be like, oh yeah, don't do investing or anything, or don't do the risky stuff, just get your education, get a job, and just work hard.
Yeah, what was that like when you decided what was that conversation like when you said you wanted to quit your degree and just work and do investing?
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was tough. I definitely had a lot of arguments, because obviously my siblings as well, they believed that investing was risky. So
why was that?
Oh, they didn't have much knowledge in it. It came down to the knowledge. They didn't have knowledge in it. They haven't had an experience in it. Their idea is that investing is really risky, so just stay away from it. And they were kind of trying to push me down that path as well. Yeah. So it was hard. It was like it was me versus my siblings and my parents.
And being the youngest as well.
My dad was actually pretty chill about it, but me versus my siblings and my mum, you know. And it wasn't easy to talk to them about it, but I kind of just had to do it.
Where do you think they're at now? Where do you think they're at now?
What do you mean? Oh, where
Like
my
with their-
siblings are at?
Yeah, like their understanding of like what you do.
Oh,
now.
they love it now.
Yeah.
My brother's like investing. My sister's, everyone's on our public portfolio.
go.
My mum's going hard on the public portfolio. She's always checking it. She's like, oh man, this is best shit.
She's buying the dip. Buy the dip. When the market dips, we buy.
But everyone loves it now. Everyone loves it.
Dude, that must be intoxicating for your mum. For her to work so many hours and work so hard, and then to see like a week's worth of work that she would have to actually put in, like physically, the same monetary value goes up in the portfolio in like a few hours, depending on if we get a good burn. You know, like that must
Unfortunately, right now though, it's her first year, so it's like dipping, and she's like, "Oh man, it's gone minus, man." Hold on. I'm like, "Mum, just keep buying this dip."
I got my mum in and literally like just it could not have been like the worst fucking period.
February 12th.
Oh, it was like
You know the exact date.
it was late. It was like late last year, but like it was still at the convincing period. So it was like the size came in the early, and it was like, oh, why's my little sister making so much money, or why's my little daughter making so much money because she invested earlier? Why am I down? It's just how it goes, mate. That's what it is, mate. Because you invest. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then even with me as well, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but once like I met all you boys and obviously started learning about why money is important, I realized that if you have money, you can actually focus increase your knowledge about different areas of life.
Frees up your time to be more knowledgeable about things.
Yeah, and then through that you can find what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And
Help
you
people.
can help people. You can gain your knowledge in different areas of life. So that really motivated me. That aspect of having money motivated me. Being able to help my parents, the idea of being able to help my parents motivated me. Like the idea of like looking after my family, and then us being able to like, you know, not have to go to work and be with my family.
Yeah.
Like that motivates me.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But the thing is, like, this is like with donating and all of that stuff. Like, when you see the African kids on TV, whatever they show us, these, you know, these organizations through ads, it just doesn't hit. But when you start seeing it with your own eyes, and it happens to you, and it happens to someone you care about and you love, then it changes everything. And you really start, you know, thinking about how to actually live life. And, you know, money's not everything in the world, but like, how much have we learned about wisdom? Even like, if a lot of what you just spoke about is like wisdom. You know, you want to care about your mum, you want to help your mum, you know, you're doing things for your mum, you know, and that's what Hardcore Headstart's about. It's not just about the money, but it's just understanding it does play a crucial role. And yeah, understand like the bigger picture at play. Something as well, like remember like my other grandma, my Japanese grandma, you know, I think she's 93 now. And remember during COVID, she bought a new apartment. She sold her house off, bought a little apartment, and the bloody thing was built so badly that it was just pouring down, right? Rain into her house, into her apartment. Like, it was just dripping out. So she didn't want to, because like in her mind, like I'm always busy, which I was like during Nando's, because I would Nando's time I wouldn't come to much family events and all that. I've told her many times, like, I'm not that busy anymore. I always make time for her. Now she gets it. During that time, she didn't really do it, so I probably need to communicate that better. But what she was doing was she was actually telling people, to like other family members, like my mom and other people, to go over and help her scoop the water up. Like, it was pouring down. It's probably pouring down at a rate of, I don't know, like 1-2 liters a minute. Like, it's like a tap's on, man. A tap is on in the house, just running down the walls in 2 rooms. And when I went there one night, Nana called me up and she's like, I'm so sorry, Dylan. Like, been up all night, thing won't stop leaking. Got no one to help me out. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll come help you. And go there. I said, wow, this is just not an exaggeration. This is big. And that led to, the reason why she came to me was because it already led to so many fights with the other family members. Because they're stressed out of their bloody mind with their jobs and their finances and all of that. They don't have the time. For me, I'm like, I'm going to go there. And it was tough work. Like, I'm like, shit, I don't even know how I'm doing this stuff. You know, I'm like, fuck, I'm contemplating just paying someone 2-3 G's, you know, to
fixing the roof.
Sleep it up and
fix the roof, yeah.
But you know, in where we are, it rains overnight every time. So it was like he was leaving at like 10 p.m.
And we had to go to get it actually fixed. You need to go to Body Corporate, so it's like they're in control,
right?
Because it's in a big apartment complex, so you can't just fix it. So I literally, as she's in a case, trying to convince them, please fix this. I was scooping up all the water, and everybody's fighting about it. So like, first thing I did was just bought like 3 water vacuums. That their job is to suck up water. So I'm like, all right, this is something I can do. I can allocate a bit of capital here. And then I just set up like the little futon mattress, and went to sleep. And then I just put a timer on for like every 30 minutes. I'll wake up again, turn on the vacuums, wake up again. And I did that for like practically 2 weeks, like every single night, getting no sleep, until finally got to prove that someone will actually fix this thing. But the moral of the story is, I was the only person that had the ability to do that. There wasn't anyone else eligible in the family that could do that. And how could they? If they've got a family, they have to go to work and be at work at 9 a.m. How can they? So I just cancelled everything for my week, and focused on my grandma. And that's what I love about money. It gives you that freedom to show up for your family. And then not get pissed off at little shit. My grandma didn't do anything wrong. People are cracking it at my grandma. What should you do? She didn't do anything.
She's 93. She's got a pool in a fucking spare bedroom.
Yeah.
Poor lady's stressed.
Yeah.
Nothing she can do. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so true.
I remember growing up as well. It was similar because obviously my siblings, they had jobs and they had lives to worry about. But when my parents needed something, and I was pretty young, like I couldn't really help out a lot. But when my parents needed something, like, there would be a lot of arguments being like, "Oh man, just fix it, learn how to fix it." Mom's like, "I don't know what's going on."
Yeah.
A lot of arguments, and growing up in that, it's not a healthy environment for a
Yeah.
kid to grow up in.
Mm.
So, yeah, I agree with that.
just get it done. What I mean? Just get it done. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a hard one.
It definitely helps having that time and just being able to breathe and actually help people around you out.
See it for what it is. No bias.
Common theme in all of our stories is we've pretty much debunked, the rich person being evil. Money is not the root of all evil. You can really use money for good. I think money amplifies who you are as a person. And again, which is why 24 episodes have been on character development. It amplifies who you are. If you're a good person, you're going to do good things with money. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's the most important part. You become that good person.
Yeah.
Previous to having money, and then you get to keep it as well.
And the only reason why we're not billionaires is because we haven't helped billions of people or millions of people. If we had helped millions of people, you would be billionaires.
Yeah, very simple.
It's just a numbers game, boys.
So yeah, we've got work to do, boys. We haven't helped as many people as we need to.
No way.
Gotta get it there.
Absolutely.
All right, boys.
Hey.
Anything else you guys want to touch on?
No. I think everyone's stories were beautiful.
Or Ripper
Gentlemen.
stories?
Loved your boys' stories. I think they were very, transparent. Put yourselves out there.
Mm.
Very emotional.
Right.
It's going to be exciting to go deeper into money and finance moving on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people have been craving it, haven't they?
Yeah, man.
And I got some questions as well saying like, oh, are you going to do more about character development and mindset and all of that stuff? And we will. We just did the basics. We'll do advanced stuff later, but we wanted to put in some basics of money now.
Yeah.
So the next podcast all about money, and then we'll probably come back to money again, do the more advanced, complicated stuff, because this shit just keeps on going on and on and on.
It's never ending. But don't, just because now we're doing money in the 25th episode, don't just start at money. Go back to episode 1, watch 1 to 24, the character development, become at least the basics, the type of person who can make money, keep money, and be a good person. And then you're ready to actually take on the basics of money. This is the entire point. This podcast is an ABC structured course for you guys.
If you take anything from today's episode, it will be just to reflect on your life, like how you grew up, and what your behavior was with money, and see how that has affected your life so far, and then think about how you're going to be in 10 years' time with a different perception of money.
Absolutely right.
One more thing as well, I just remembered is we're all saying that our family said investing is risky. To a certain degree, they're actually correct, because if you don't have the knowledge, it is risky. So you don't want to, I find a lot of people, they're in a rush to invest money now. well, you should finish and should know when you're ready. Like by going through the podcast and all that, you got to know yourself when you're ready. If this is only stuff that you've actually learned about money, you're not ready to invest. So you got to wait for the right time and then do it. There's no rush to making money. You got to do it properly the right way, and then it works out so much better.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, boys.
All right, boys.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Please like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell, know what we upload, share it with all your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.
Pack her up.
Pack her up.
Back her up.
Pack her up. Thank you for listening.
Let's go.